Taro,
That's
go
it.
ahead. Take it
Yeah.
away. The guy rubbing his belly over there.
Yeah. All right. So we have Mr. Sean Morris. He's currently the director, one of the directors, or the director of Top Rank
Director.
International Vehicle Imports. How you doing, Sean?
I am good. I'm good, thank you. Just same as everybody else in a lockdown, but other than that, I mean, everything is relatively normal. I mean, my job, a lot of what I do anyway, is all online. So, and oddly enough, our salesperson actually worked remote for 2 or 3 years.
Oh,
We didn't
that's
even have a
Let's keep it a children friendly show here, Sean.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Sorry, I was a sailor, I was in the Navy
That's
for
right.
6
You
years.
were a
It
Navy.
kind
Yeah,
of
you were a Navy.
it kind of flows out of me without even realizing. I'm sorry. So,
he's among friends, so
yeah.
Yeah, we've known
I'm gonna be a little bit loosey goosey. So
yeah, we've known Sean for. I mean, I think I've known you for about close to 20 years now.
Close to 20, yeah.
Right?
Sean, I've known you for close to 20 or
close to 20. Yeah, it's around 20
I think
years
both
because
of us, yeah.
I first started talking. I know Sam back around 99. So 99, 2000. So yeah, it's 20 years, 21 years. So.
Holy cow. Okay.
Yeah, and I remember meeting Sean back in the MotoRex days when we were, selling the best motoring stuff and Tommy Kyra stuff that we did with you
Spoon.
back in the day. Yeah, and Spoon. So hey, so you're with Top Rank now, obviously. How did you get started with Top Rank? I mean, Top Rank is a Japanese company now, right? And you guys are here now in the U.S.
Right. Well, actually, so when the R32 GT-R turned 25 years old in 2014, that was what was really the catalyst for me to get more involved with vehicle importation and with the 25-year-old cars. And so I actually had my own company, which is International Vehicle Importers. That's me. And, I was importing cars and doing stuff like that. And then Yaska, who, that was also at MotoRex in a roundabout way. He was the export side of MotoRex. He wanted to import some cars, and I was selling some cars for him. And he was representing Top Rank from Japan here in the U.S. So I was selling some of Top Rank's cars. And then convenient for me was that he had a hangar at the airport in Long Beach. And, my family business was out in Ontario, and that's where we had the cars. And, I live in Long Beach. So it was kind of a bit of a commute, a little bit of a pain, a little bit of a hassle. So, he had the hangar over here. And I mean, honestly, the hangar is right down the street from where I live. Like I only drive on the street to get there. And as far as LA and a normal commute, if you get to just drive on the street to be where you work. So we eventually worked out a deal that worked well for both of us, where basically Top Rank was supplying a lot of the cars. Obviously, I'm supplying a lot of the technical know-how, or the rest of the things like that behind the scenes on this stuff. I didn't really like dealing with all the paperwork, there's a lot of parts of the car sales side that I didn't really want to be involved with. And so Yaska said, I'll do that. And so then I'm like, you can have it. So I'm like, let me do what I want to do, which is, basically sales and marketing, more or less what I say, play with the cars. And, I get involved with stuff if I need to get involved, like if we have any, bigger time government issues, DMV issues, working on other more complicated things. But the day-to-day operations, I just don't want to be in the middle of it. So,
but you still handle like the California, the CARB lab testing and all that kind of stuff, right?
Actually, 2 minutes before I got on this call, I was talking to the guy from the lab. So yeah, so I'm at the emissions lab about. I usually, if it's a normal time, I'm there about once a week. So I'm there because we usually have about a dozen cars there doing California compliance, and I'm there's always something. I mean, we're dealing with 25 years old cars. there's everything from what seems mundane, like we need to have a vacuum diagram for every single car so the referee knows what it is, to, you know, drawing those vacuum diagrams, to things like, you know, obviously there's times when cars aren't running right, or, you know, they have a problem, or we tested them and, you know, it was no good. And so then I have to go down there and figure out, you know, what the problem is. I mean, sometimes it's something as simple as you know, have like an aftermarket controller on it and somebody unplugged it and just, you know, stashed it away in the dash, or, you know, somebody left something else, you know, undone. And sometimes it's as complicated as, you know, we have to actually fix things with the cars and change stuff like oxygen sensors and things. You know?
Yeah. So we just did a video with Top Rank about, you know, kind of breaking down the steps necessary to import a GT-R from Japan. Can you kind of walk us through the steps that, I mean, I think a lot of listeners don't even know that you can, you know, bring in an R33 GT-R now, right? It's ready to go.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what are kind of the steps, or what do you guys provide that makes it possible?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing that we provide is that we have real cars here in Southern California. Come and look at them, come and touch them, because the thing is, they're 25 years old, right? And everybody has different levels of what they consider to be acceptable for a vehicle. And so, you know, if you're buying a car from Japan, sight unseen, unknown, there's a lot of risk, right? I mean, number one, you don't know who you're dealing with, like who you're sending money to. I mean, you know, generally Japanese are pretty straightforward, and, you know, everything else is easy. But you know, what you are going to be dealing with is, you know, obviously, you know, wire transferring somebody $20,000-$30,000. You know, the fact that they have to get that car, you know, exported, you know, here, you know, it's all possible. It's all like anything, you know, there's DIY people out there, and there's people who just want to have it done. And we provide the service of done, if that's what you want. And we can also help people, you know, buy cars overseas and inspect them and do things like that. But, you know, we really like to have like somebody come look at the car that we have here in Southern California, say, that's the car for me, that's not the car for me. You know, everybody has different standards, again, because, you know, what somebody decides is the most perfect car in the world, I may think is a piece of junk. So, and vice versa. So, well,
it's probably pretty risky to wire money to a person that maybe doesn't even speak English that well, and, you know, wait until the car comes. I mean, you have no idea if this car is ever going to show up or not. I mean, I think, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, most people in the world are pretty good. Most people, I mean, I bought and sold cars all over the world. And you know, I mean, I've bought, you know, I used to buy cars for people in Australia from the US to ship to Australia. And I mean, I transferred, wrote checks, thousands of cars. And, you know, I mean, occasionally you run into somebody who's a little bit of a problem, but, you know, I'm here, I can deal with it. You know, you just don't want to be that one guy, because it does happen. So, you know, I mean, it's risky. And then also, you know, just some of the stuff that's lost in translation can be a little bit, you know, complicated. So
Sean, how many cars do you usually have at one time in your shop for
well,
sale?
For sale or have at the shop? So,
well, have at the shop that someone could come and buy. You know, they could
yeah,
shop around.
Right. I mean, we stocked up the beginning of this year because we ran short last year a couple times. We had over 100 cars in the shop before all this stuff happened. We have about 40 cars for sale on the website, but we have probably 60, 70 cars at the shop right now. So the thing is that it's everything takes time too. You know, from when it gets here, we got to do our inspections. We got to make sure everything is, you know, how it's supposed to be able to sell it. And then with, you know, like anything, you only have X amount of manpower. And so then, you know, there's cars that are arriving, cars that are departing. And so then, you know, there's always a mix of, like, you know, where you spread your manpower out any day. And so, you know, we're preparing cars that just came in so we can get photos of them, to get them up online, get them inspected, you know, fix any things that we have to fix. You know, if, I mean, it does happen, which is, you know, a car comes over and, you know, the AC needs to be repaired, or, you know, it needs tires, or it needs something else. And so all of those things are stuff that we have to work on here. and it all adds to the time, which is why, you know, you got to have in the car business, you got to have triple or quadruple the number of cars you want to sell a month, you know, in stock, ready to sell.
And GTRs aren't the only cars that you guys sell, right? You guys do
No,
other.
right. I mean, it's one of our specialties. I mean, we were up to about 30 R32 GT-Rs, which, you know, is a pretty significant number. It's kind of cool for a GT-R nerd like me to see, like, you know, have like 30 at the shop at once. But lots of other stuff. There's lots of other weird things that were never sold in the U.S. and not even just Japan, but just Japan is obviously where we focus because, you know, that's where, you know, Yaska and even myself have a lot of experience there. But, you know, we have a Holden Ute, you know, we've gotten BMWs, some other weird cars like that, but mostly like stuff like Mitsubishi Delica, Suzuki Cappuccino, Toyota Supra, RX-7s are really popular. Silvias, Toyota Century, you know, there's literally like, you know, hundreds and thousands of cars. But of course, like anything, we have to buy the cars that we think we can sell. You know, the cost to buy it, to ship it, to, you know, for us to do maintenance on it, for us to do all the things that we're going to do on it are relatively high. And so, you know, we are a business, we're not a charity, and we are, you know, in the business of, you know, importing cars and making money on them. I mean, that's what we do. So
When did you, since when are you a GTR nerd, like you said? How'd you get into GTRs? Were you already a GTR guy, you know, before you started working?
1991. 1991. So I went to Japan in 1991 with my dad when I was like 16. So you know, my family business, we were, my dad's a car dealer and he had a place up in North Hollywood. And we were selling, my dad had some cars, Corvettes and things like that. And we had some Japanese Japanese buyers come and buy these cars from him. And, you know, anybody who's, you know, relatively smart can say, hey, if you're looking for other cars, let us know what you're looking for. And so, you know, we started to have good relationships with a lot of customers and we built from there. In the bubble economy there in the late 80s, it got really good. It got really fun. I mean, when I was, you know, 15, 16 years old, I'm, you know, picking up Ferrari Testarossas and, you know, driving Countachs and, you know, we had Ford GT40s and lots of other really, really cool cars that, you know, and so one of our big customers, he had a car that was going to be at the first Tokyo Auto Auction back in, or like I said, around 1991. And so he had a Porsche 550A Spider, you know, and so we did like a full this is before the restoration. So, you know, he sent it over to Japan. He owned like a lot of, he owned recycling companies and travel agencies in Japan. And so he, you know, he's a crazy guy. He used to come into my dad's shop and just say like, he'd just be like, can I have that one and that one and that one? And then he'd like have a magazine and say, can you get me 2 of those, please? You know,
It's like a candy
and it was
store,
like,
right?
how was that? Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
It was great. Cause like, you know, he was a cool guy and, you know, he'd just come in and be happy and buy cars. And, you know, I mean, like I said, I was 16 years old going to a Ferrari dealer, picking up a Testarossa. You know, there's worse things, you know, they definitely didn't like giving it to me because I looked pretty freaking young when I was 16. I probably looked like I was about 12. And so they're like, are you sure you're going to give this kid, you know, Testarossa? But anyway, I went to Japan in 91, you know, and the R32 GT-R was pretty prevalent then. You know, I bought the Best Motoring and all those other VHSs and, you know, R32 was doing really well against his contemporaries then. And you know, I kind of fell in love from there. And so obviously I went in the Navy in 91. And so I was in the Navy 91 to 97. Honestly, when I was out in different parts of the world, I tried to rent one or get one or touch one if I could, because obviously they weren't in the US. 97, I got out of the Navy. And then
Is that where you met up or started working at MotoRex? right away, or?
No, I started working at MotoRex. So I went into the family business. The family business, we were exporting Astrovans by then to Japan.
I
So we
remember
did a
hearing that.
lot of Astrovans to
Yeah,
Japan.
yeah.
And so, but it was on the downside then.
Mm-hmm.
So we were really busy for a while. We had too many employees, too much stuff, too much overhead, and then our business slowed down. We shifted away from that and went to just car dealership. The export side pretty much stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And so in '99, I started working for MotoRex. I actually, oh man, I'm gonna get in trouble from Sam for saying this, but basically, I was working family business. I told my dad to go F himself. And then I started to work for MotoRex for a little bit. So actually, I needed a job. I needed something to do, and then my sister talked to Hiro,
Okay.
and Hiro hired me on.
So what was it like? Tell us about some of the old days working at MotoRex, and I'm sure it was pretty exciting at the beginning, at least, right?
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of fun. We had these GT-Rs, stuff that was never available, and done some crash testing and done, certification. We're trying our best to do all the things that we needed to do. When I came in, we weren't a registered importer yet, but I did bring MotoRex into becoming a registered importer. I went to JK Technologies on the East Coast, who were the guys who were doing the crash testing and the other stuff. I went to MGA Labs in Wisconsin, where we did the actual crash testing of the cars. Actually met up with Nick Wong there, who's one of our customers, and one of very, very early customer. And then, we had a lot of fun. I mean, but the car sales themselves weren't that good.
Mm-hmm.
We never really sold that many cars.
Hey, Sean, back then the 25-year rule wasn't in place, was it?
Yeah, it was. It's been in place since '88.
Then how the heck so it really wasn't on the up and up, was it?
No, it was all on the up and up. We did crash testing. We did certification.
So you guys considered manufacturer?
No, we're considered a registered importer.
A registered importer, you still could sell those cars within 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
because
okay.
it's basically it's just not done very often because it's really complicated. Because it would be easier if we were the manufacturer. Manufacturer self-certifies. If a manufacturer, GM, Nissan, Honda, whatever, if they say this car passes crash testing, then it does. Understand? It's like it does because they said it. When we're a registered importer, when we're MotoRex, we got to crash it.
You have to actually do it, right? And that's pretty expensive. Yeah.
Right.
And so it's writing off a car. Yeah.
Multiple cars. So the thing was, there's a lot of stories, and things about it. A lot of falsehoods. A lot of people, said, "Oh, they didn't do this." Even you don't understand completely about all what it is, but basically, registered importer can take what's called a non-compliant vehicle, modify it to meet federal motor vehicle safety standards, and then when that happens, then the NHTSA gives you something called a bond release, and then that releases the liability, the bond against the vehicle being brought into compliance. And I said all this stuff gets really complex, and I started to go down a rabbit hole, and I can go down some really, really deep rabbit holes. But so things like, there's for federal motor vehicle safety standards, there's like 101 standardized controls and displays. You have to have a speedometer, and it's supposed to read in miles per hour. The odometer, oddly enough, doesn't need to, I don't think, as long as it's marked correctly. But you've got to have, like, the brake light has to say brake.
Mm.
You can't have the international symbol, the little, like all those kinds of things. Like, we had to change all that in the cluster. And so what you would do is, first it starts off with what's called a petition. So if we wanted to, we'll go back because we'll talk about Skylines because I want to stay basically on that. So MotoRex petitioned, or JK originally petitioned for 1990 through 1999 Nissan Skyline GT-Rs to be capable of being modified to meet U.S. federal motor vehicle safety standards. And what that means is, they had to prove that these vehicles would meet each one of these standards. And so if you break out the CFR, what's called the CFR, the Code of Federal Regulations, and you go through each step, and it tells you like what all standards, and you literally have to the NHTSA, write a petition, have photos, documentation, other engineering data, and that included crash testing, to show them that, you know, these vehicles could meet these standards. And then what they do is that all that information gets published in what you call the Federal Register. And then when it publishes in the Federal Register, then you get a final notice on, once it's all done and everybody's had all their time to talk about it and stuff, then you, it becomes basically, for that, the original Skyline was called VCP 17, which is vehicles capable of being modified via petition. So it's not the only way that things can happen, but that's the way. So it's VCP 17, and the fact that it's number 17 means that there's very, very few cars that were petitioned and brought into compliance, and some of those are even trailers, and like horse trailers and stuff like that can also be considered in that list. So MotoRex did everything. Now, I went to the NHTSA with Jonathan, and I sat in there with Dick Merritt, with Luke Loy, with all the people from the NHTSA. We talked about what they wanted to see with the Skylines. Every single car that came through MotoRex that we did the compliance work on when I was there, we have to take photos of it. Like, hey, if you put side markers in on the car, we would take a photo of the side marker and we put it in the petition. In the conformance package. And so then that all falls under the petition. So the petition's VCP 17. Here are the things that we have to modify on these vehicles in order to meet this. And again, that's only one single side of this stuff. So then you've also got EPA, and then you've also, here in California, you got ARB. So you got to meet easy CBP, Customs Border Protection, NHTSA, EPA, ARB, DMV. So plus IRS, BOE. It's kind of funny. You like all these different government agencies that you have to comply with in order, you know. But that's what we did. So it wasn't bullshit. It's a lot of work. Was everything exactly the way it's supposed to be? Not really. But is anything in life exactly the way it's supposed to be? Not really. People at the NHTSA knew exactly what they were approving and not approving. They got packages for every single car.
How many cars? How many cars did you bring to compliance and sell through MotoRex?
So I was there for like 2 years. I was there till about April 2002, and I did about 60 or 70 cars. And then after I was done, the number that's floated by me is about 120 total. But a lot of those cars were never actually brought into compliance. At the end, because MotoRex wasn't bringing them into compliance, the NHTSA issued a letter that said, look, issued a letter to the owners that said, look, we know the car doesn't meet standards, but your intentions were to bring it into standards. And so here's your letter. Like, we don't care. You're good to go.
And so some people obviously still have those cars to this day.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I mean, we bought a few R34s, you know, MotoRex R34s recently. So we got one right now. So we have one right now that we're kind of sort of off the market selling. You know, we don't really put it out in the general public. So.
Is that
that one is legally available, correct, Sean?
Legal, yeah. Legal.
Oh, okay. Is that purple one I saw in your shop?
That's the silver and blue one, right?
Silver, just silver.
Oh, the silver one. Okay.
So, yeah, Sean, how many R33s are going to be? Are they 25 now?
So 1995 R33 are legal now. So right. I actually have so for Fast and Furious, you know, Fast and Furious, the first movie before it ever came to be anything, you know, we brought over there, you know, when they were doing the auditions for it, we brought R32 and R33. And they liked the R33, and then we gave them an R33. They painted it yellow. It had the crazy dude on the side. And, you know, I called that car Big Bird, right? It was my old – I turned it into, like, my old drag car. We did a bunch of stuff. It was kind of our demo car, you know, like
I remember that car.
it ran Pikes Peak. We did all kinds of stuff with it, right? It was our demo.
Isn't that the
And
one that
so,
got crushed?
yes.
Yeah,
So,
that was
so the
sad.
problem was that, we brought that car in and it was on a TIB. It was on a temporary import bond. And we never did the compliance package on it. We never did the things that we needed to do to bring it into compliance because we were doing other things with it. And
Like
so
demoing
then,
and stuff.
and what's that?
Like demoing and racing, right?
Yeah,
right.
and then we had the engine out, and like it just wasn't. We just didn't do. It wasn't a priority.
Yeah.
And then when MotoRex shut down, actually, Hero owed money to different people, and at one point I told Jack Tao, that was RB. I told because he owed Jack a bunch of money, and he wanted to give him like titles. And Hero was doing everything to try to get cash. I said, "Man, take the car." So we had the car for a while, but I didn't have the means to be able to put it back together. And so, and if I would have really thought about it more, I would have made sure that car also got a letter, because it could have had a letter to say it's
Right.
good.
Yeah, yeah.
But it traded hands like 2 more times, and it got down to like basically one DMV kind of misinterpreting, some VIN, some labeling things on the car. Most of the time they only crush them to teach somebody a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And that is unfortunate, but it happened. So I'm going to build Big Bird 2. So I have an R33. It's here. It's at the paint shop, or it was at the paint shop. It's been out to Wakita. We pulled the engine and trans out of it because I have an RB30. I have a 3-liter version of a RB26.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I have in my Nismo, I had an OS88 sequential transmission. And so we pulled the OS88 out of my car, took the trans out of Big Bird 2, put it in my Nismo, pulling that 30 out, gonna put the stock engine back in the car that had the 30, and turn it into a demo. At some point, I'm just kind of in the, oh my God, I don't know what to do right now, because I have 85% of everything I need, but I'm feeling kind of apprehensive about spending more money towards it right now. So when it's a demo car.
Didn't you just guys buy back the GT-R that you sold to Paul Walker?
Yeah, oh, that's the silver one. Yeah, we have that.
That's a silver one. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I said. We have some off-market activity for that car. Mm-hmm. We don't like some of that's pretty much all of those R34s we sold. They don't go on our website.
Yeah. So what was it like? I think I read somewhere, or you told me you took around Paul around the lot, right? What was that conversation like?
Well, I don't even remember. So I really don't. I have photos of it. Like James. Yeah.
I've seen the photos.
Yeah, James Lewis took photos. Like he came there with us when we took the cars. I didn't know who he was at all. I mean, then you're talking 1999 or 2000, right. Whenever they were doing the auditions.
No one knew who any of those guys were.
Right. When they're doing the casting. And so, I had an R32 and we were in Universal, and I took them for a round, where the clock tower is?
Yeah.
I was I was a little, it's kind of opposite lock a little bit around.
Back to the Future tower.
Yeah, right there, right around that area there. I was like, I was hustling the R32 through there, and so, there's some photos of like me and him talking, and I'm like standing there, and he's like sitting in the car and all of that. And so, but I really honestly had, until I saw the photos, I had no recollection of it. I mean, I remember taking somebody from Universal for driving the car. Mm-hmm. I do not remember it was Paul.
And was that the only movie that you guys provided cars to?
No, so I mean, I left before the stuff for two.
Oh,
So
okay.
for two, so what happened was, you know, during filming of one, you know, Craig Lieberman, Paul Walker both came to the
Mhm.
shop, and they're both like, "Oh, we're gonna buy R34s," and you're like, "Yeah, sure, you know, whatever, yeah, you know, right?"
Yeah.
Because people, you know, people talk a lot,
Yeah.
right? You know,
Yeah.
and you're like, "Oh yeah, okay, just another blowhard, right? Yeah, just people talking, yeah, whatever, you know." But they did. And so Paul and Craig both got cars. So the silver car was actually the first one we got for Paul.
Mhm.
And so I think that we may have had it in stock and we're going through the compliance work on it. And then he picked it up. He had it for a little bit. And then, you know, Nissan paint in the front, Hero, who knows? It might have been painted before. Anyway, he said one of his friends looked at it, said it looks like it had paint. He didn't want it anymore.
Mm.
So then we loaned him Blackbird for a little while. And so he had that for a little bit before Craig Lieberman bought it.
Okay.
And then after that, we had another customer that had a V-Spec 2, a white V-Spec 2. And this is right before the V-Spec 2 NER came out.
Mm.
And so when the NER came out, the customer decided that they would also buy a NER. So one guy had a V-Spec 2, brand new V-Spec 2, and a brand new V-Spec 2 NER. And so the V-Spec 2 ended up going to Paul. So that's the car that he's still associated with as a white V-Spec 2. And that was in the background, a couple movies and stuff like that. And then Craig ended up buying Blackbird. Craig, you know, turned it into the car for the second movie. Universal bought a bunch of GT-Rs from MotoRex for the movie. And so then that was in 2. So then I wasn't involved with anything after, you know, I wasn't involved with anything for 2, but I did get a call for 3. And so Toshi, actually, Hayama, called me one day when I was walking out on the road somewhere and says, "Hey, I'm looking for an RB25 transmission." And I said, you know, I don't really know where to find and get one of those. And he's like, "Yeah, we're putting a RB26 in a Mustang." I was like, oh man, that's pretty stupid.
That's all over the internet now, though.
Right. So anyway, you know, they were that was what they were doing, and so then I ended up getting another call from John Weiser, who was like picture car wrangler.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And Craig Lieberman recommended me to him, and so I went up and I visited the Mustang with the RB26 in it, and I helped them I put them on a path that I thought made a lot more sense for that car, because they'd taken an engine out of one of the R34 GT-Rs and I put it in this Mustang, and they were doing some other weird stuff, and they needed a single turbo, and you know, they needed a couple other things, and so I decided that, you know, we had engines. We sold them just an R32 engine to throw in it. Put the R34 back together, because a complete running R34 I thought it's worth more money and makes more sense than an R34 shell, like missing the original engine and transmission and stuff.
Right.
So then that became my baby. And so for Fast and Furious 3, that was, you know, I helped out with that Mustang. So there was a couple other cars in it. So I was in Picture Car Warehouse a bit. And so then whenever the Mustang worked, I worked. So, and then for Fast and Furious 4, I was a technical advisor for the insert unit. Can you get any more weird than that?
For the insert unit?
So what does that mean? That means that when you see people like shifting gears and you see feet.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's actually my hands and my feet.
I see.
So when you see like Vin Diesel's feet, like pressing on an accelerator or something, have a look how much the shoe is like bending, because that's my foot in there, not his. So for basically when they're doing those insert shots where, like, you know, basically somebody's shifting gears, or you see somebody mat the gas or hit the brake or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like for that quarter of a second.
Shifting into 12th gear, right?
Right. Yeah. If you can see, you can probably see you. If you look carefully enough, you can see some of my scars. So, on the hands that are on the screen. Obviously, I couldn't do everybody's hands and feet, but
Mhm.
I did. I did almost. I did. I think everybody's feet, because any of the other insert actors they had just couldn't do the feet right. So.
Oh, and I was impressed that Vin Diesel could, heel toe.
Yeah. So I was actually, so when they have those bucks, right? And so he's in there and they're like shaking it around and they're like filming him, like pretending to. I was actually on the steering wheel on the other side moving his hands.
Oh,
So
okay.
I was like connected on a shaft.
Yeah.
I'm like moving his, and it was weird because like the very first, so, I'm there with Justin Lin and we were, you're on the sound stage, you're doing all this stuff. And I was actually dressed up because, okay, so look, you're on the movies is not real life, right? Have you ever been on a movie set? If you've ever been on the movie, like, I mean, even filming a movie, it's not really real life, right? I mean, the like craft services and all this other weird crap, right?
Yeah.
And so, I've got to get in wardrobe, because I got to put my shoes on, right? I got to put the pants on, because if they're shooting and they're shooting across my body, they want to make sure. And they're like, they also want you to wear the shirt, because just in case they catch, any section of the shirt or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, there's the one guy that has like a fro and a gold chain and all that stuff and a hat in Fast and Furious 4. And so they give me the wardrobe and they have that there. I'm like, look, if I'm wearing this, I'm wearing the hat, I'm wearing the fro, I'm wearing the gold chain. I'm like, there's no way that I'm going to go like 80% on this outfit. I am wearing it all, okay? So I was actually, when I was doing that with Vin, I had the full outfit on, like with the fro and the gold. Yeah, anyway, it was,
And
I mean,
the
it's
abs
funny.
too.
I mean, for me, it was like super funny because like I said, I'm like, look, if I'm going to wear the shoes, the pants, the shirt, I need the gold chain, I need the fro and I need the hat. It's just, it has to go together.
Well,
Otherwise
you
I
have
just
you have Vin's abs too, so that's
right.
it worked out
Yeah.
perfectly.
Yeah. There's stories about stuff like that I probably shouldn't even talk about on things like this. So I won't. So. But it was fun. Justin Lin, I was giving them advice and, how, steer, how people should be looked, when they're driving and all that kind of stuff. And they're asking me like, how do you do a wheelie on dirt? I said, can you take that part out? And they didn't really like that. So I'm not really so much of the yes man kind of guy, which, I don't think the movie people are really used to. So, when I'm telling them like, hey, can you change that? Well, it doesn't really fly that well because they're used to everybody saying, yes, sir, no, sir. Let me see how quick I can do that. And I'm like, can you just change that? So,
Well, that's how, I mean, it gets far from authenticity. And that's why I think a lot of the series has been generally accepted by the automotive enthusiast market crowd because, it's as close as, you can see the effort, right? You can see the effort.
Yeah. And that is it. I mean, it's not a documentary,
Yeah.
and what I always tell people is I love the movies. I made good money from the movies. I mean, for 3, we sold them a lot of the background cars.
Oh, okay.
So the stuff like they crash into in the underground parking garage and that, even the Mercedes that the bosses have and some of the other cars, we sold them a lot of those cars.
You're not making any royalties from the movies. I heard RJ still gets checks like every quarter from that
Nice.
little scene that he shot.
Nice, yeah, but he was on. Yeah, I don't have any of that stuff. So I'm just more like happy to be involved.
Yeah.
I've probably bought more Fast and Furious merchandise than I ever made, though. So.
There's some great stories, though. Great stories.
Right. Yeah, it's fun. So.
Yeah. Hey, so we're going to start wrapping it up a little bit, but what do you think of the current state of the JDM and the performance market? I mean, with the 25 years coming, there's a lot of R32s coming in now. What's your take on the current state of the import scene?
Man, the current. I mean, with everything that's going on,
Oh, did we lose him?
Is that it? Is he had enough? Is that what he thinks, Taro? He's like, this is what the current state of the market is.
Conveniently
It's
frozen.
He just dropped out.
I thought he was like really prolonged thinking,
No, I'm here.
There he
back.
is.
He's better than ever.
I'm here.
We lost you there.
Are you there?
We lost
Okay,
you
I'm
for-
here. I'm
yeah.
here. Sorry. No, I mean, I was saying, it's hard to know, but there's two Nismo R32 GT-Rs that just sold. One on Bring a Trailer, one in Australia for $80,000 each, which I think is, kind of a high end of what one of those cars would bring. I'm shaking my head because everything right now is in such a weird point. I don't know what to say. It's, we're relatively busy. We're getting a lot of inquiries. We're getting a lot of people asking about cars. We are selling cars. We're shipping cars. We're, all of that stuff. I mean, the stuff that we have is very unique. It falls into a stranger niche of the market. Like, people who are buying our cars, they don't need them as a daily driver. It's a want, and so not a need. And so, but that also comes, with uncertainty in the times. It's a little, as far as things go, I think that it may be pushed to the back of like, what you're going to spend your money on.
Yeah, well, right now with the virus and everything, it's probably not the first thing that's on people's mind, right? To get the third car, the fourth car that you can't drive every day, right?
Yeah, and but like I said, I'm a little surprised how many emails and stuff we're still getting, because it's quite a lot.
That's
yeah,
good.
it's. I mean, we got a lot of, like, just this month we got a lot of deals pending. Like a lot of stuff, because like the banks are all taking a little longer. Everything's taking longer. There's no DMB. Like everything is a little screwed up.
Right. That makes sense then.
But I mean, we've got a lot of cars pending. A lot.
And those clients are all like, the guys that grew up watching Fast and the Furious and playing Gran Turismo, right? So
Yeah.
We're not talking about kids. We're talking about like grown adults, right? That are.
Yeah, we're talking about adults. We're talking guys, in their late, I mean, the youngest guys are generally in their late 20s, but up till around my age, 45, 46. So it's people who can afford to buy a toy, and they've always wanted one, and they're put themselves in a position to be able to purchase one, and they want it. And they're, I mean, there are still people that have jobs. There are still people that again, are just buying houses, selling houses, everything in between. So life goes on, but it's uncertain. Well,
listen, Sean, thanks a lot. It's been educational and entertaining at the same time. Thanks for all the great stories. Yeah, thanks. We're gonna move on to our next section. If you can hang out, or if you got things to do and work on your car or whatever, you can sign off. But
I'll hang out.
Okay.
I'll,
awesome.
yeah.
You're more than welcome.
Okay.
All right, Sam. All yours.
Okay, Sean, thanks for that little nice narrative, man. I wanted to hear some more R-rated stuff from the MotoRex days, but it's all right, man. We'll do that next.
We'll get to that next.
Show.
We'll get to that next.
Because
Birdie, Crystal.
There were so many stories around.
Cha-cha. Cha-cha.
I don't know what you're talking about, Sean, but anyways.
We got to do a reunion. We got to do a reunion with everybody.
Hey, Sean, before I switch on to my topic, I was wondering, you had quite a bit of demand for the R32, right? I mean, that was kind of your bread and butter for you guys.
Huge demand. Still huge demand.
Yeah. What do you foresee or forecast with the R33? In Japan, of course, it's not as popular as the R32, but to me, the R33 looks more like a tuner car. It looks more like.
Sure. So the thing is, like 43,000 R32 GT-Rs, 16,000 R33 GT-Rs. So
we're made. You mean?
The number available, and again, that's 89 to 94 on the R32, 95 to 98. So what you always have to remember with these cars is that here we are in April, the only cars that are available are cars that were produced up until April. So the
Right.
supply is actually pretty small.
Right.
The prices are relatively high. They're higher than the R32. The R33 shape was very popular here in the States. When we were at MotoRex, people really like that shape.
Mhm.
The R32 is classic now, but it was dated then.
Mm-hmm.
And so the one-piece headlights, the more rounded, and it's a bigger car, man. It fits. Americans are much bigger people than Japanese people in general. And so you got a little bit more, girth to be able to, and there's a little bit more space in that car. It's a much longer wheelbase, and so it's more of a smooth, more of a high-speed, like luxury cruiser car than the R32, which is a little more small and raw. But again, the price and the availability. So we have been selling them, but they've been hard to get, and there's not a lot of them out there to have. So.
In another, how many years will it be when the R34 becomes available? Which is, I think,
2024.
out of those three, it might be my favorite. But
4 more years, right?
Price on the R34,
it's going to be huge. It's going to be up there, isn't it?
It's already high, and it's already a lot higher than there's a lot of people out there. I've been dealing with this since the very beginning. We've been dealing with this. When I had $20,000 R32s, I had guys saying, "Oh, I'm just going to wait for the R34." This is back in 2014. I'm like, well, by the time that those cars are available, they're going to be very expensive. Oh, I'm just going to wait. I'm like, okay, well, it's fine. You can wait if you'd like, but let's talk realistic numbers of cars that have sold recently in Japan and stuff that's not even going to be available for the US for a while. There have been, and there was just recently a grade for NER that sold for $250 in Japan.
Ooh. Well, that NER was pretty awesome. That was the last car I drove from MotoRex, actually. It was the white NER.
Right. And so, so the thing is that even, your run-of-the-mill car, and again, not everything is GT-R, but I almost always talk about GT-R. So there's 12,000 R34 GT-Rs. Again, you're going less. The cars that are available, and we're talking worldwide population. A lot of guys don't think there's cars that just aren't available to buy. There's cars that are in Japan that you're not going to be able to buy it. That guy's not going to sell it to you.
Yeah.
There's cars here in the US that are just not available. Somebody doesn't want to sell it to you because they don't need to. So, and I think people, 100 is where they start.
Ooh,
and there'd probably be more.
Yeah, for a used car, that's a
by
lot.
the time they get available.
Hopefully those are the kind of cars that'll go up in price, as like the Supra has, like the NSX has. So we'll see.
They've been going up, and the thing is that because it was never available here, there are a lot of people that decide that they really want one, and you have to have more money than they're willing to spend.
Come on, tell us where we can find you. Tell us.
Sean, give us. How do we get a hold of you if we?
How do we find you?
So it's
we want an R32.
Top Rank Importers, importedvehicle.com, 844 go Nissan Nissan San.
You might want to do that in English, just for our English listeners.
844-523-2233.
Oh, you got Nissan in there.
And you guys are on social media, obviously, on Instagram.
We are, Top Rank
everywhere.
Importers, Facebook, the Google. You can find us everywhere. Imported vehicle. There's YouTube. You've followed Sean. We're everywhere. So.
Okay, James. Any parting remarks?
No, just looking forward to seeing everyone come check me out at No Braking. At nobraking.com. They can obviously find the latest article on the Audi is already up on GTChannel. And then looking forward to our next one. We've got to cover more stuff next time.
Awesome. Taro.
GTChannel. We did a couple videos with Sean and the gang, so check those videos out. How to buy a GT-R in Japan. How to drive a GT-R, with Dustin Williams. Shout out to Dustin.
Excuse me.
And next, bless you, Sam.
Sorry, excuse me.
Next week, actually, we're our other contributor, Justin Kaler. He's going to be visiting Top Rank to test drive the Evo 2, I believe, right? So
Sure.
yeah,
Evo 2, we
Sounds
have
like, sure,
Evo
yeah.
1. We have an Evo 1, we have Evo 2s, so yeah.
yep.
Sure.
So he's going to do a JDM car review next week at
Awesome,
Top
awesome.
Rank.
And then for me, I guess just samatani.com/blog if you want to read the chapters. There's going to be people's names in there. You might, I can't use the names straight right out because, you know, I don't want my friends angry at me. So you might recognize some people in there. But and you could find the site on the GT channel features page because there's some
GTChannel.com.
blogs. Yeah, GTchannel.com. So anyways, hey, it was a great show. Thank you again, Sean, for joining us, and
Thanks,
we will,
Sean.
I'm sure,
Having me.
see you in the near future.
We
So
will.
everyone, stay safe, stay strong,
Wash your hands.
and Podspeed to everyone. All right, see you later.
See
Bye,
ya.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Everyone.
Right.